Hi fellow Lanzarote lovers, and welcome to this week's news. And we've got quite a bit of really interesting stuff, including, and this is late and breaking, a delay to the EES entry system into the Schengen zone. We've also got the most bizarre story relating to a hoax about the Playa Blanca cruise port. And as always, stay tuned until the end because I'll be sharing 3 things you should be doing next week if you're here on the island. But before we start, I just wanted to introduce you to, I was going to say my co-star in these videos, but actually based on the number of questions we've had, he is actually the star of the videos, and that is the pink plant you can see over my left shoulder. And this is Cedric, and he is an oyster plant, part of the spiderwort family. So say hello to Cedric, everyone. So that was Cedric, and let's get on with the news now. Kicking off with 4 new giant wind turbines that have been manufactured in Germany are being put near San Bartolomé, in that sort of section of road between Zonzamas and San Bartolomé. It's a really, really good location for wind turbines because there's a sort of low bit of the island and the northerly winds really whistle through there. These new wind turbines will create enough power to provide electricity for 8,000 homes on the island, and they will reduce our CO2 emissions as a whole for Lanzarote by 11,000 tonnes. And if you drive along that road now, you can see the construction has started. We actually caught one of the trucks, giant trucks, transporting part of the assembly of it up to there a couple of weeks ago, and the area looks like a construction site now, with a very big crane that will hoist the blades onto the top of the towers when they're ready. We've had more awards for Lanzarote wines. This time it's the Extreme Wine Awards, and these are awards given to wines where the vines are grown in extreme conditions, and for sure we have extreme conditions here in Lanzarote. Typically wines need between 300 and 600 millilitres of water per year to just be able to survive, and our vines survive on 150, and in fact in the last 12 months we've only had 75 millilitres of rainwater here. And the reason our vines survive is because of the pecan, the volcanic ash that they are sunk into so that their roots can reach the soil. But that black pecan actually draws moisture from the air and takes it down to the roots. So the wines that won awards, I need to have a look at my my iPad to let you know which ones they are. So there were great gold medals. So if you like super gold medals, I don't know why they didn't call them platinum gold medals, for the El Grifo Ancestral wine, for the Moscatel orange wine, also from El Grifo, and I love that personally. And then some other wines, the Milagro Magmasia Colección and the Luz de Obsidiana from Bodega Erupción won also great gold medals. And regular gold medals were given to the Lagrima 2023 and the Martignon Blanco Seco, also from 2023. The bottom line is Lanzarote wines just win awards all the time, so if you're not regularly trying them, I recommend you do now. Okay, let's talk about the EES, and this is the entry-exit system into the EU. And if you've been watching these news bulletins for a few weeks, you will know that the planned implementation date for it was the 10th of November. So, you know, as we're sitting here today on the 11th of October, less than a month away, we had news last night that the EU have decided to postpone that start. And it's because 3 countries, the Netherlands, Germany and France, are saying they're not ready and they want to do some live testing before they go live with the whole thing. The EU's commissioner for this is Eva Johansson, and she has said that they're going to have a meeting they're definitely postponing it, so it's not happening on the 10th of November, but they're going to have a meeting of the committee next week to decide how and when they're going to implement it. And she talked about having a rolled phase out of it rather than, as was originally planned, a big bang and every country within Schengen going live the same day. If we do have a rolled phase out, a rollout phase, I don't know what the right phrase is, but if we do have a rollout of it, I'm guessing Spain will be one of the early adopters of it, because we have said we're ready to go ahead with the new EES system. Through these news bulletins, I will keep you posted. But for now, if you're coming from outside the Schengen area, the EU, you'll need to continue to have your passport stamped, and I'll let you know as soon as that situation will change again. Now, you may know that there is currently a new letting law relating to viviendas vacacionales going through the Canarian Parliament. That is still working its way through the various committees of the Canarian Parliament. But the Supreme Court did make a ruling this week which does change things for some holiday home owners. And the Supreme Court have ruled that a community of owners, and here in Spain, almost all apartment complexes and many villa complexes are community owned. In other words, everybody who owns an apartment in a complex also owns that percentage of the communal areas. Typically, well, there'll be the swimming pool, the underground car parking, if there is any, communal gardens and outside walls and all those kind of things. So the Supreme Court have ruled now that if 3/5 of the owners in a community vote to disallow holiday letting, that can be carried. So in other words, if you own a property in a complex of apartments and people are currently holiday letting, you could, along with your fellow owners, as long as you get a 3/5 majority, vote to stop other owners letting those properties out. I mentioned last weekend that the Marlin Cup took place, and this is a really prestigious fishing competition that goes out from Puerto Calero every year, and obviously a prize is awarded to the boat that catches the most marlin and tuna. And it was won by a boat this year called Naomi, and their reward, if you like, is that they're going to be able to compete at the World Championships in Costa Rica. So they'll be heading down to Costa Rica over the next few months and fishing for marlin down there. If you've driven on that little piece of road that goes from the Monumento Campesino towards La Aria, you'll have seen the huge finca on your left-hand side, which is currently being refurbished by Bodegas Bermejos. Interestingly, Bodega El Grio have now also bought an older property, and they've bought Caserío de Mosaga in San Bartolomé, and this has been trading for about 25 years as a kind of boutique rural hotel, and it's on a finca of more than 10,000 square meters, and El Grio are going to use it to offer hospitality to travellers from all over the world, and they will be able to try their wines there and enjoy gourmet food in the restaurant. El Grio, by the way, is the oldest winery in the Canary Islands and the 10th oldest in Spain, and they actually celebrate their 250th anniversary in 2025. Now, this next one is a weird story. It's all about a hoax. And if I can remember the sequence clearly for you, it started off with a press release which came out on Thursday morning. And we got it, and so did all the local newspapers and TV stations here in Lanzarote. And this press release said that Playa Blanca and two other smaller ports in other islands had been left off the MedCruise list. Now, the MedCruise list is the list of ports approved to accept cruise ships throughout Spain and the Mediterranean countries. Oscar Noda, who is the mayor of Yaiza, went ballistic because if you've watched these news bulletins regularly, you will know that he would very much like to have small boutique cruise ships to be able to dock in Playa Blanca, and he's been going after this business for some time. when the ferry port at Playa Blanca was refurbished, they deliberately included a 300-metre dock to allow small cruise ships to come in. I'm talking about cruise ships that only have between 1 and 500 passengers to give you a feel for the size of them. He went ballistic because he saw this hoax and it was all over the local press and on television. He then held a press conference where he said he thought it was awful that this had happened and that Medcruise hadn't informed him of it and that the Cabildo hadn't informed him of it either. Well, it turned out to be a complete and utter hoax, and nobody knows yet who put out the press release. We all took it as read when it came through, which I guess is our bad really for not digging deeper into it. And Medcruise has came out with a press release later yesterday saying this isn't true. Playa Blanca is still on the list, as are the other ports mentioned that are in the Canary Islands. So everyone's left with a bit of egg on their face. The bottom line is that Playa Blanca is still on that list. I suspect Oscar will go after trying to get small boutique cruise lines in there. It's going to take some time though, because cruise lines tend to book out their schedules 2, sometimes 3 years in advance. So the first thing he's got to do is persuade people that they should dock their ships in Playa Blanca, and then the next thing is to wait for them to have a slot in their schedule where they can do so. Now this is the point at which I ask you, please, if you haven't already done so, to subscribe to our news channel so that you see these news videos every Saturday morning. If you like this video, please give us a like. If you don't, feel free to give us a dislike, but I hope you won't do that. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave a comment below. I read every single one of them, and if you have a question, I will always do my best to reply as quickly as I possibly can. Thank you. So 2 bits of news left for you before we go on to the 3 things I recommend you do in Lanzarote next week. And the first of these is that Spain is considering changing the alcohol limits for drivers. Now currently the drink drive limit here is 0.25 milligrams per 100 millilitres, and they are considering changing that to 0.10 grams per 100 millilitres. And that's the same level that Sweden and Norway, for example, have had for some time. What that does mean is that even having a glass of wine or a beer will put you over the drink drive limit. This proposal is currently going through Congress. It isn't yet law, but I think it's quite likely that it will be made law. The upside of all of this is that Spain is the largest consumer of zero alcohol beers, and we have some really, really good ones. So if you are the designated driver, at least you'll be able to drink a very nice beer. Julie and I religiously take turns to drive when we go out. We have a note on the board saying who drove last, and it's the other person's turn next time. We don't drink anything when we're out for a meal and we're driving, and we drink these zero alcohol beers. We particularly like the Mahu Tostada beer, so look out for that one because it's excellent. And finally on the news, remember the horse sculptures that used to be off the shore by the Castillo San Gabriel in Arrecife. They were removed by the previous government. The new incoming government, led by Oswaldo Betancourt, said at the beginning of their term that he wanted to have them put back. Well, the bad news is somebody has dug up an old historic buildings law that basically makes it impossible for them to be put back where they were. I think it's a real shame because the positioning was beautiful. They looked eerie and fascinating, and of course as the tide changed, the whole aspect of the 4 horses there changed as well. The Cabildo have considered another area. They thought about putting them somewhere near El Islote de la Fermina, but that was nixed by exactly the same ruling. So they are now actively searching for somewhere to put those 4 horses that were sculpted by Jason de Caires Taylor back somewhere on the island. I just hope they can find somewhere as beautiful, iconic and as accessible as where they were before, because it was just lovely to see them. And I always made a point of pulling into that car park at Castillo San Gabriel when I was passing, just to have a look at them and see how they were looking according to whatever the tide was doing that day. So that's it on the news front this week. I hope you enjoyed that. And now let's have a look at 3 things you should be doing if you're on the island next week. Now I'm going to start with the market at Playa Blanca, which is Saturday the 12th of October. I specifically mentioned this one because unlike the other markets on the island, it isn't weekly. It's one Saturday in each month, and it runs from 10 o'clock until 2 o'clock. And the market is all based on Calle Mayor, which is the sort of avenue that runs down the airport side of Playa Blanca. And it's just a beautiful avenue with trees and nice cafes, and the market is actually set up in the middle section of the avenue. So that's one I'd highly recommend. If you're not able to get to that, just put it in your diary for your next visit, because if the Saturday where it's on occurs while you're here, it's a good one to go and look at, and it is different to all the other markets on the island. Now, the other thing I would recommend that you go to, and this runs from the 13th until the 20th of October, is Arionetas in Aria. Now, Arionetas, that's spelt with an H, so Harionetas, is the Spanish for marionettes. And this is a festival that takes place annually. It has done so over the last 5 years. And all kinds of marionette performers come along and display their skills in the Plaza of Aria. You can click through to our What's On page, so go to lanzaroteinformation.co.uk, click the What's On button, and then scroll through to the 13th to the 20th of October, and you can click through from there to the full programme, which will tell you what's on each day. But they are fascinating to watch. They're beautifully made marionettes. Pinocchio will be there, as will many others, so I would recommend that for you next week. And if you're here next Saturday the 19th, I would go along to Sara in Taiche. And if you take the road past the Fundación Cesar Manrique, going towards San Bartolomé, around a kilometre away from the Fundación, on your left you will see Sara. And Sara is the animal protection organisation of the island. And they house the homeless dogs and cats, and just do a fantastic job looking after maltreated animals on the island. Now, they collect used clothing all through the month, and then once a month they have a clothing sale where they sell all those items off, and all of the money raised goes to the charity, to Sara. And it's a good place to meet people. It's a great place to go and see the dogs, and you can offer to walk them, and indeed you can adopt one if you choose to do so. But it's also somewhere you can get a terrific bargain, because a lot of the clothes that they that are passed on to them are really quite good quality, and you'll get them for a few euros versus perhaps 50, 60 or 100 euros. So I would recommend that. That runs on a Saturday. I'm just checking the times, from between 11 and 1. So go along there and buy some clothes and support the charity, and go and say hi to some of the dogs. And that's it for this week. I hope you've enjoyed that. We will be back at the same time next week, keeping you up to date with all the news from your favourite island. Thank you so much for watching once again, and bye for now.